Welcome to our video on Unit 3 of Apush. Our project is on the Townshend Act of 1767, and this video is produced by me, Raji, August, and Dylan. The creation of the Townshend Acts was due to the repeal of the Stamp Act. The Townshend Acts consisted of the Suspending Act, the Revenue Act, the Indemnity Act, and the Commissioners of Customs Act. Together, these acts employed and enforced the taxation of glass, lead, paint, paper, and tea. The Suspending Act prohibited the New York Assembly from conducting business until it complied with the Quartering Act. The Revenue Act created the taxation on the aforementioned materials. The Indemnity Act made English imports of tea cheaper so that they could make more money by reselling the tea to colonists. The Commissioners of Customs Act installed a Commission of Customs inside the colonies that made sure taxation was enforced. This is a portrait of Charles Townshend, the man responsible for the acts. The acts were enforced from 1767 until 1770, where only the tax on tea remained.
The Townshend Acts escalated tensions between the colonists and the British, leading to resistance and protests from the colonists. The letter written by Samuel Adams in 1668, known as the Massachusetts Circular, lays out how it's unconstitutional to have taxation without representation. His letter also encouraged colonists to boycott newly taxed British goods. Instead, he encouraged colonists to turn towards domestic production and trade. Merchants in Boston signed the non-importation agreement, and they were soon followed by merchants in New York and Philadelphia. The British responded by sending military forces to Boston to enforce the Townshend Acts. This new military force only helped to escalate tensions. At the same time, colonists turned to smuggling to obtain heavily taxed British goods. In Massachusetts, led by Samuel Adams, colonists set up a committee of correspondence. The committee was a strong coordinated resistance to the Townshend Acts and helped the colonists unite in the upheaval. Skirmishes between the colonists and the British were becoming more and more common. By March of 1770, an angry mob of colonists rioted in front of the British Customs House. This riot led to a full-on massacre when British troops fired into the crowd, killing 5 colonial men. The British guards were promptly arrested and sent to trial, where 2 soldiers were convicted of manslaughter. Following the Boston Massacre, a propaganda battle was fought between the colonists and the British. Both sides published pamphlets telling vastly different stories about the massacre. The Boston Massacre is considered one of the most significant events that turned colonial sentiment against the British. In this picture, you have colonial men protesting in the streets, and this is an illustration showing the Boston Massacre, and you can see the British in the red firing upon the colonial men.
John Dickinson and his letter from Pennsylvania farmer. John Dickinson was a founding father and a delegate for Pennsylvania at both the First and Second Continental Congress. He was known as the penman of the Revolution for his influential writing. So a farmer in Pennsylvania wrote a series of 12 letters to John Dickinson. John then got these letters published, and they were widely read through all the colonies and helped unite the population against the Townshend Acts. These letters argue that the Townshend laws as well as the Navigation Acts ignore the rights of Englishmen living in the American colonies. They stated that the Parliament couldn't exercise its power to raise revenue for itself within the colonies. These letters were very important because they helped turn the public opinion against the Townshend Acts and essentially were against British oppression.
In 1770, the British government made a significant decision regarding the controversial Townshend Acts. These acts, which imposed taxes on various imported goods in American colonies, had led to the widespread protest and discontent. In response to this growing tension, the British government decided to repeal most of the Townshend Acts. With one notable exception, the tax on tea remained in place. While this partial repeal offered a brief respite from colonial unrest, it did not fully resolve the underlying issues. The tax of tea, in particular, would continue to be a source of contention between the American colonies and Britain. This decision marked a crucial moment in the lead-up to the American Revolutionary War, as it failed to satisfy the colonists' demand for representation and self-determination. The repeal of the Townshend Acts was one step in a series of events that would eventually lead to the American colonies seeking independence from British rule. And so, the repeal of the government Townshend Acts became significant in the story of America's struggle for freedom.
Lastly, we just wanted to say thank you for watching, and we hope you enjoyed.